Okay. Good morning. So my name is Dorothy. So we saw very beautiful presentation from the expert, from the learning scientist and so on. So I'm not this person. So the thing is that I come from the immunization world. So this is really, I think that I'm like an immunization advocate. I'm really convinced that it's very important. So to me, training, capacity building is really a key solution, but also a key barriers for improving the immunization coverage in countries. So I would like you to remind one thing. We are talking about immunization staff, right? So what does it mean? It means that the immunization staff have a big responsibility from the last decade. You know that we are talking about billion of US dollars when we are talking about vaccination and vaccine. So you can see the volume of vaccine has increased. The number of doses also increased. We introduced new vaccines, so many new vaccines. And it has a cost. It's very expensive also for the countries, right? So we ask these immunization people, staff, to move into these trends. Increasing of everything, challenges, right? Next. So what we know also is that it's not only a question of billions of US dollars for the vaccine, but it's also millions of dollars annually spent for train this immunization staff. What does it mean? I would like to ask in this room, do you have any idea about the rates of implementation of new knowledge and new skills after training? Do you have any idea? Please, do not hesitate, do not be shy. 30%. Sorry? 30%. What do you think? Is it evidence-based? No. Okay, impressed. No, very important. We are not scientists, but we need to get some, evidence. Your idea or your experience, very good. Others? Others? Okay, so we'll come back to this because we are not so far, but a little far. Let's move on to the next. So we know that there's a lot of money spent. We are not sure about the use of the money in terms of increasing the performance of the immunization services in country. We are not sure about how this training can impact into the increase of the immunization coverage, right? So, when I assume everybody in this room already trained other people, right? In a sense, not in a classroom, but maybe with colleagues or whatever. So when you are a trainer, you know exactly what you are supposed to teach, right? You know exactly how you can teach. You can talk, you can have a PowerPoint, you can have whatever. So you know roughly what they have learned. We have discussed a lot about measurement. We have discussed about instructional design during yesterday and today. But if I ask you the question about, do you have any idea about the level of learning transfer at workplace? So you can see that it's very, very small, small, because we don't really know. And it's fair. I mean, who asked us to know? Nobody. But the other fact on that is that it's not a question of billion or million US dollars. Something that is much more difficult, tricky. If you have a low training effectiveness, what happens? So you will not have any immunization staff, capable to do their work, capable to do the injection, capable to do safe injection, because we need to protect the baby, not kill them. And the other thing is also, if you don't have a good, service providing, it means that you will not be able to vaccinate fully a baby. And you know all, we have epidemiologists in this room, that if there is no protection of our babies, so outbreaks will appear. Babies will be, there will be disabilities of the babies, and they can die, right? So we are not talking only about money, we are talking about the real impact of having wrong training. Next. Sorry, I was waiting for myself. Where are you, Dorothy? I was lost somewhere. waiting for the next thing. So Julie already teach us about instructional design. I will not come back on that, and I think it's great. But what is very, very disturbing is that when we are talking about training, we are talking about the training event, face-to-face courses, distance learning, whatever. But we never talk about what happened when these people have to save lives in the field. How can they implement the new knowledge, the new skills? This is really tricky. So here we have the cycle of the instructional design. But I'd like to, well, which is, you need to assess the needs, of course. You have to develop the training program based on the objective, professional objective competencies. You have to produce this training material, you have to deliver, and you have to evaluate to re-engineering the training program for sure. But here, if you look at this, most of the time, the instructional designing is really focusing on the training event. And this is, to me, a nonsense. We should integrate in this training design all the activities that should be done after, when the immunization staff has to be back to its workplace, right? So all the things should be done comprehensively. Well, I'm saying that, of course, we will say, oh, she's crazy, it's not possible, it's so expensive. Real, it's true. But what about the return on investment, right? Next, Dorothy, okay. So I talk a lot. Somebody said that I'm so talkative, how can you stay into 1 hour presentation? And I say no, because we have experts in the room. All of you are experts. So I'd like to invite you to think about if you were a capacity building expert, specialist, consultant. I'd like to invite you in a fictive country. The name of this country is Lilu. In this country, they are facing some issue for immunization. So they will need probably the support of the training specialist. We have a very, very strong training specialist, Jamil. Oh. So we can rely also on the advice, I think, of all the group, but Jamil can help also. So, are you ready for this journey? Yes. Let's move on.
Laos is a small country with 25 million inhabitants. However, the immunization is still low while government and partners strongly supported the national expanded program on immunization. In 2015, the national immunization coverage was 60%. Despite a strong investment of Laos government, which invested $3 million to reinforce capacity of 600 immunization staff, in the last 5 years. This consists in delivering an immunization blended training program that encompasses a 3-month e-learning and a 3-week face-to-face training courses. In 2015, Laos acknowledged the lowest immunization coverage, which is 35%, in Jives district. Children are not fully immunized or zero-dose children. In 2016, measles outbreak erupted in 6 out of 10 communes. The outbreak investigation and case management revealed a severe shortage of vaccines, and supply at service delivery level. In the last 6 months, only 45% of vaccines were available in facilities, which caused missing opportunity to vaccinate all children in Jives district. Despite the blended training program implemented in the country, the outbreak investigation report has highlighted low performance of immunization staff in the district. Then, the Jives' district medical officer, Dr. Meena, decides to find solutions for improving immunization staff's skills. She hired a training specialist to provide technical assistance. Mr. Deo is a capacity building specialist, who has been hired by Dr. Meena. His first work is to conduct a rapid training evaluation study. 2 weeks later, Dr. Meena and Mr. Deo discussed about key findings of the training evaluation. Mr. Deo analyzed the learning gained by immunization staff during training sessions. All staff got high scores with an average of 95%. However, behavior changes and implementation of skills are very low. During interviews, Deo could identify 5 key challenges: 1. Lack of motivation, 2. Poor support from manager. 3. No technical tool. 4. Work overload. 5. Theoretical content difficult to transfer in work situation. So what would you do if you were Dale?
So, the journey was in Leab. So we have Dr. Mina, who is really struggling in the question of capacity building and lack of skilled immunization staff. And we have Mr. Hayo, who needs your support, because you are expert too. So can we discuss, I think that George will help us, because I'm not a very good facilitator, and he will stop. We have 5 minutes to discuss about possible solution. What would you do? In this case, based on the information you have, what would you do? What would you recommend to Dr. Mina to see really how we can change the situation? Millions of US$ training, staff have been trained and nothing happened in real situation. And you can see epidemics, babies die. So, what would you recommend? Do not be shy, huh? I'm not inviting anyone. Yeah, thank you. Can you stand up so we can hear you? I think we need the microphone. It's Femi, and you are from?
Jeeves.
From Jeeves. Okay. He's an expert from Jeeves, so he's going to share with us his recommendation and advice. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think the first thing I actually asked Mr. Dayo, actually in my language they call him Mr. Dayo, what I will ask him to do is actually throw more light on 2 things.
George.
The first thing that you said was the issue of motivation.
Yeah.
I would like to know more about what do they mean by lack of motivation. Then lack of support. Is it in terms of supportive supervision? I mean, those are some of the things, those are key things that I would like to know, because if we're able to know what type of motivation, is this something I can do something about at that district level? Yeah. Then if it's something of support, because no matter the training, we all know, no matter the training, if you don't have constant supportive supervision, it's not going to go anywhere.
Perfect. So do you agree with our expert from Jeeves? We're explaining that the question of motivation, what kind of motivation, and what about the managers? So he would like to recommend supportive supervision. So, Karine?
Okay, this is Karine from Chai, Cameroon. I think the situation here, what we are facing here is an outbreak. In this situation, it's not only like a staff problem. We are having a stock out of the vaccine. I think from the story, 45% of the stock was only available. So, Mr. What was
Dayo?
Dayo, the doctor?
No, Dr. Mina.
Mina. She's trying to solve this problem solely by building the capacity of her staff. And it seems like her staff are well knowledge. They perform 100%. So, but the outcome of the assessment, I think she's having, when we talk about capacity building, we have the number aspect and we have the quality aspect. Maybe here she's having the quality aspect, but she's not having the number aspect, meaning the quantity.
Quantitative.
Yeah, the quantitative aspect of it.
What would be your solution?
So, my solution or my advice, maybe the solution is too ambitious.
Sure.
The advice will be to see how, but her staff are tired. So, it's a bit tricky because asking them to add additional tasks to them will drain them more. I don't know, maybe she can get some staff from the neighboring district.
Okay.
That can come and support.
It can be a solution, right?
Yeah.
Is it a realistic solution? We will not discuss about this, right? But, okay, why not? She can ask help from other districts. Why not? Is there any other advice? Because supportive supervision is one, asking for more staff, maybe who are not skilled. Well, we don't know. Maybe they are skilled, we don't know. Jill, please.
So if I've understood it correctly, the reason for the outbreak is stock out of vaccines.
Sorry?
The reason for the outbreak is stock out of vaccines. So we need to look at the root cause of that. Was that because there was lack of funding? Was that because the forecasting wasn't done properly? So, in my opinion, no amount of training is going to solve that original problem. So I would go back to the root cause of the problem, and then maybe we can do more training on forecasting properly and what have you. But I think we need to find out whether it's funding or what the reason is for the stock out.
So I look at the report, and it seems that in the report done by Dr. Mina about what happened, why this epidemic, why there was no vaccine at the facility level, and it seems that they did not order, they did not calculate estimated the number of vaccines to be ordered. They did not do their job. So it was not a question of financing. So we already have 5 minutes discussion around this. So I think it's very important that you mentioned that if there's others, I think that the two of you mentioned that maybe the training is not the solution. But in this case, the key point was that the staff, immunization staff, was not skilled. They did not perform their job as they were supposed to do. So that was the key point. So, dear advisor, so it seems that you recommended supportive supervision and additional staff, right? Everybody agree with that? Okay? Yes? The last one, can I, George? Maybe the last one. Because maybe we need something else. And then we move to the solution.
Yes, maybe the last one, which would be also related to the fact that even if they are trained and this one thing is not there, those children wouldn't be able to do their job is the tools.
Can you speak loudly? I cannot hear you.
They said there were no tools for them to perform their job. So one of the solutions would be to look into what tools do they need to do their job.
Okay. So additional staff plus like job aids or this kind of thing, yeah, right? Additional man resources, and here tools. Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to ask Mr. Dayo what he suggested to Dr. Mina, right? So the next video, please.
Mr. Dayo explains factors that affect transfer of skills and knowledge to the workplace. 1. Training program design. 2. Trainee motivation and confidence. 3. Workplace environment. Therefore, it is crucial to consider stakeholders to engage in the training program. 1. The immunization staff, as trainee. 2. The immediate superior of the immunization staff, as supportive supervisor. 3. The training specialist, as training designer. They must collaborate together. Dr. Mina acknowledged that very little attention has been done to follow up immunization staff after training. Their immediate superior is not requested to provide specific technical support and encouragement for skill transfer. Most of the time, immunization staff doesn't seem to be confident or motivated to perform duties. Mr. Dayo proposes adaptation of the blended training program with, first of all, 2 activities before training. 1. Setting an immunization staff's performance dashboard. 2. Revising and updating learning materials, instructional design. Then, during training, immunization staff will develop individual improvement plan. Each immunization staff identifies the way he will transfer skills in his routine, with whom he will implement new knowledge and skills gained on the job. What will be the calendar of implementation? Which indicators will enable him to monitor his action plan? Finally, after training. 1. Supportive supervision, which consists in requesting immediate manager to act as supportive supervisor for improved performance. 2. Community of practices, where immunization staff meets once a month to discuss about implementation of improvement plan. Dr. Mina approved the proposed solution to revise training content and to set up a follow-up immunization staff. She asked Mr. Dayo to provide technical assistance for 6 months. Epilogue: 6 months later, positive impacts are observed in Jive's district. 1. Favorable work climate. Managers, Immunization staff and other health workers collaborate and communicate better. 2. Improved motivation and confidence of immunization staff. Indeed, they create a professional network to share issues, best practices, and to solve problems. 3. Quality of service is improved and staff works with SOPs and job aids. Immunization coverage increased from 35% to 70%. Dr. Mina, managers and immunization staff are currently collaborating together to develop a district immunization plan to reach over 90% immunization coverage in 2017.
I don't know if you have any comments or, yeah, there is one hand over there. George, we have 5 minutes, right? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this example. My question is on the sustainability of this. Because one of the issues you are having is that you can have this, and the next month, the staff that was trained is moved. Yeah. Another new staff comes, and everything's collapsed. So how do we sustain the system instead of just training individuals?
Yeah.
So the aspect we have seen here is only training, but there are other drivers.
Of course. You are perfectly right, Blanche. And I think that we are talking about sustainability of everything, even of the immunization program in any country, right? So the human resources for health or for immunization is a tricky, very tricky problem. But in this situation, you can imagine that, for example, transforming the current or routine activities within a district to shape it as, you know, a learning process and continuous way to ensuring that the performance or the skills will be developed is something that is very important. I think it's really, we discussed with the group on follow-up activities yesterday and today, and one very important point was related to, I move a lot, I do like this, Blanche. So the idea is also to ensuring that the culture of continuous learning will be, you know, spread to the manager and to the immunization staff themselves. So most of the time when we talk about immunization staff, they are doing also other health programs, right? So we have to deal with the constraints of any countries and any governmental approach. We have to deal with that. So, yeah. Other comments, reflection, ideas? Okay, so George, we can move on. So where is it? Okay. So as your name is Madam, what is your name? Smeta. Sorry? Smeta. Look at this. We were not so far, we were not so close. But, you know, I made a kind of desk review to see what are the most recent information about this rate of, you know, knowledge transfer after training. And the best with meta-analysis, study, research, and all these things was from Cromwell and Cobb in 2004. And the thing that they identified was 15% only is transferred and applied in real situation at workplace. So it's not specific to the immunization area, but this is business area. So you can imagine public sector compared to business sector. So we have to think about this, right? So I think that somebody asked a question about we need to understand better the context, better the barriers to, you know, like identifying the root causes. So we know that for training, what can be an impediment or hinder the transfer of new knowledge is first the motivation and self-confidence of the trainees themselves. The program design can be also can impact negatively. The work environment also, that could be a barrier. And of course, the manager and even the peers, I mean, the colleagues could be barriers for implementing new knowledge. Did you ever face the situation of being trained During the training event, you are so motivated, learning new things, innovation, new way of thinking. You feel like motivated. When I go back to my work, I'm going to change everything. I'm going to do transformative activities. And you go back and you explain this to your boss to try to convince him. Oh, no, we don't have time. Just focus on this. Try to discuss with your colleagues. Your colleagues say, oh, but who's going to pay for that? I don't want to do this. So what are you doing? You don't do anything. You just continue, or you move to WHO, or you move to UNICEF, or you move to other NGOs also. So it's really a question of the retention of the health workers. We must be very clear with that. So you can empower very good staff, but they will not stay. So it's a big issue, right? So what is very important here is to also consider that when we are talking about learning transfer, it's not about the learner themselves or the immunization staff. We are talking about all these people who are working up, down, and how do you say it in English? Peer, staff, yeah, exactly. So when we think about instructional design of any program, or if we think about how they are going to implement, if you think of already, I'm going to develop a training thing. I want this training thing to happen in the field. So you have to work with all these people to ensure that they will be engaged in the process also. And you need also to think about, to think about before the training itself. You need to think about, sorry, I'm not used to that. During the training also and after the training. There are some specific activities to be done with the trainees and the managers and the staff to ensuring that the changes will happen. So, just to recap, Mr. Dayo, what did he suggest to Dr. Mina? So you can see here, what is the performance assessment? Who already developed this kind of thing at country level? When you develop a training, so how do you define the objectives? Do you do any, gap analysis to identify what kind of skills should be reinforced and so on? Do you negotiate with the immunization staff what needs to be improved? So the performance assessment is, to me, is a key tool to acknowledge where we are so far, to be honest with what's going well, what is not going well, right? So this can be done before the training, prior to the training, discussion with the immediate manager and the immunization staff. Individual improvement can happen during the training. You can already introduce during the training event, well, something's going to happen. You will learn, of course, why not? We will ask you, are you happy with the training? But this is not enough. We need to understand how you envision the learning transfer. So you have to already discuss during all the event duration, training event duration, about thinking about how they are going to mobilize their knowledge to translate this in skills and be able to apply in a how do you say it? Calendar, right? And the other thing is also working with peers. There was a lot of many discussion around how can we foster the peers, the meetings, the peer things, and of course, it's very important. This is what Mr. Dayo proposed, and the supportive supervision that everybody knows, right? So where are we so far? Here? So here, it's an explanation, observing skills at workplace, the individual improvement plan. This is what I already explained. I forgot that I had this one. So, but I will not repeat, right? Okay. So, and the supportive supervision, I think it's important because we know about supportive supervision, but you know that the quality of supportive supervision depends on what? Sorry? Haha, exactly. The quality of the supportive supervision depends on the quality of the supervisor. So if you have a strong supervisor, very good, so you will be well coached. But if you are someone who is not a good supervisor, who doesn't know about immunization, for example, but he was assigned to do so nothing will happen. So that was Mr. Dayo's proposal, right? But I think that there are some other techniques to ensuring the implementation of new skills at the workplace. So the peer meetings we discussed in the own group, boss-subordinate negotiation. What is the difference between boss negotiation and peer meetings? The idea is really to ensuring that we are talking about working with the staff about solution, issue, etc. But you need to convince as a immunization staff possible changes that will improve the performance of the services or even of the skill of the immunization staff. So this is something that can be really discussed between the immunization staff and the managers. So technical assistance or technical support is something that most of the time the WHO, UNICEF, CHI, many GSI, many other partners can provide, right? And the idea is really to ensuring that when you design the program, that you can, engage other partners to help you to implement, to support the trained people implementing in this situation. So I think that was really to share with you some possible techniques. I assume there are many other techniques already implemented in some countries and so on. As I'm not a researcher, so I did not move too far for looking at this, but I assume that there are some others. I'd like to share with you some models that I thought quite interesting to share with you. The first one is a blended learning called EPIVAC. I don't know if in this room people know about this training program. It's about how to improve immunization services at district level. So it has been implemented since 2004, sorry. Jimmy, thank you. I do not remember, 2004. So there are three different components. The first one is face-to-face training during 4 weeks. So people are extracted from their workplace. They stay all together. They create a dynamic with the supervisor, with the supervisee, with the expert, etc. They work together. So not only the trainees, but the supervisor also work together. Then they go back to their workplace for 1 year, and they are supervised by the supervisor, and they receive technical assistance from the expert in the same time, and they receive also distance learning. And they are supposed to conduct a kind of mini research, operational research on specific bottlenecks or issues faced by the immunization staff. And by the end, they have an academic degree. I think it's a master degree now, and I think it's quite interesting for the motivation. So the pro of that is that the idea is really for this program to engage all the partners, even for the technical assistance and so on. The other thing is that the learning transfer was anticipated within the training system, not after. It was really integrated. The combined training approaches, so we can ensuring that they will not leave too long their workplace, even if they receive their degree. And the other thing is that the supportive supervision has not been extracted from the system, the Ministry of Health. So the supportive supervision has been conducted by the staff of the Ministry of Health. So this is very important because our colleagues Blanche mentioned about what about the sustainability. The sustainability of this one is that you have to build on the existing system and people. And the other thing is that, well, the academic degree was very, 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 helpful to keep them for 1 year into the process. And I can say that this one I forgot to mention, but after that, I think that maybe 600 people has been trained, and they are all part of an international network across 11 countries. So they are dealing together, sharing experience, best practices, and so on. The constraints. Who said this morning that it's very expensive? I do not remember who said that, but yes, I think it's our expert, Will. He explained about it's difficult too because yes, it's true, it's expensive. You have to consider that, I don't know, I think that maybe it would be interesting to conduct a study about the return on investment. Maybe it's more expensive, but maybe more effective also. So we need to really provide some evidence about the value of this training program. And the other thing is that the supportive supervisor in this program were at national level. But the immediate manager were not involved. So I think that this is a weakness, and maybe it would be good, much better to invest in immediate supervisor. The tutoring might stop by the end because it's at national level, so it might stop, but if it's integrated within the district, it would be better. And the financial sustainability of this program, because it's more expensive. Next, Dorothy. Okay. So the second one is Logivac. I don't know so far who knows about this training program. It's about immunization logistics, supply chain, all these things. And in this program, there is different training approaches. One is distance learning, face-to-face learning, distance learning again, internship into a real situation. So the student has to go into an ideal situation to apply what they have learned in theory. And then they get a diploma, professional license. Sorry? It's in Cotonou, but it's in Ouida, but I was just wondering about, I think it's a professional license still. They did not change the decree, I think. The pro is that, again, you engage all the partners. All the partners have been engaged. It's a combined training approaches, direct application of new knowledge in a real situation, and motivation because of the degree. The cons is that it's more expensive, of course. It's also 1 year. Learning transfer at workplace is not part of the training. So when the people, because the people are extracted from their working place, and then when they go back, it will stop. So I think it's a limitation of this design. And the fundraising, because the training is also a little expensive. I think I'm done, huh? Oh, no. George? Okay. So, you know, we were thinking about what could make, we are talking about quality, we are talking about the cost of follow-up activities. So, the Ministry of Health of Senegal has requested to be supported to develop some kind of, you know, to foster the use of IT solutions for supportive supervision. As we mentioned, it's like quality of supportive supervision depends on the supervisor capacity. And this one is to develop a mobile apps that can be utilized by the trainees and the supportive supervisor. So you download once, and then without any internet connection, you can use it, right? So the idea was that based on the supervision, you know, evaluation form and so on, to check all the immunization program at district level or at health facilities. So there is a performance scoring. That means it has not been done, it has been done, but is it good quality and so on. So the supervisor provides the information. And based on the result, there is a proposal for M-learning plan. And the M-learning is integrated into the application, mobile apps. So the supervisor, even if he is not very good or confident with the technical things, he can rely on the available M-learning modules here. So the idea also was to, based on the scoring and all these things, there will be a performance dashboard, and the performance dashboard will be followed up by the supportive supervisor plus the supervisee through a problem solving. So there is a cycle from one supportive supervision to another supportive supervision. There is a follow-up, and the data are available here. And even in between, if there is no on-site visit, they can share, send some information about the progress of the problem-solving plan. So it's just an idea. Maybe it will not fit for all situations, but in Senegal that was a request. So this is just to share with you some possible innovation using IT solution. And I'm done with my presentation, George.